At the beginning of the 18th century, Europe entered a turbulent period in which political and military balances were rapidly changing. The Ottoman Empire, which had been one of the most powerful states on the continent for centuries, began a period of decline after the Treaty of Karlowitz in 1699. This treaty represented not only territorial losses for the Ottomans, but also a profound psychological break. Nevertheless, the empire still possessed a large population, a strong military tradition, and deep diplomatic experience. The Pruth Campaign would become one of the last occasions on which this accumulated strength was used effectively. During this period, the Russian Tsardom emerged as an increasingly serious threat to the Ottoman state. Tsar Peter I, known as Peter the Great, was an ambitious ruler who aimed to transform Russia into one of Europe's great powers. Through Western-style military, naval, and administrative reforms, he sought to modernize his state. However, his greatest ambition was access to warm seas. The Black Sea stood at the center of this objective and was firmly under Ottoman control. The capture of the Azov fortress by Russia was therefore a strategic alarm for the Ottoman Empire. At the same time, the Great Northern War in Europe drew the Ottomans indirectly into this broader struggle. After suffering defeat at the hands of Russian forces, King Charles XII of Sweden sought refuge in Ottoman lands. In accordance with its traditional policy of protection, the Ottoman Empire granted him asylum. This decision was perceived by Russia as a hostile act. Tsar Peter increased pressure along the Ottoman borders, and diplomatic relations steadily deteriorated. War was now inevitable. In 1711, the Ottoman Empire officially decided to launch a military campaign. Grand Vizier Baltacı, Mehmet Pasha, was appointed commander of the army. As the Ottoman forces crossed the Danube and advanced northward, supply lines and routes were planned with great care. The Ottoman army was superior not only in numbers, but also in experience. The Russian army, personally commanded by Tsar Peter I, was positioned around the Pruth River. However, the Russians underestimated both the geography of the region and the mobility of the Ottoman forces. The maneuvers along the banks of the Pruth River soon determined the course of the campaign. Ottoman forces successfully encircled the Russian army in a short time. As the days passed, conditions for Russian soldiers grew increasingly dire. Hunger, thirst, and disease spread rapidly. Supply routes were cut off, and any possibility of retreat disappeared. Historical sources indicate that at this point, the Russian army faced near total destruction. For Tsar Peter, this was one of the most critical moments of his career. The Ottoman army stood on the brink of a decisive military victory. However, Baltacı Mehmet Pasha evaluated not only the situation on the battlefield, but also the broader political landscape of Europe. A prolonged conflict could invite intervention by Austria and other European powers. Furthermore, the strain on the army and the economic cost of extended warfare posed serious risks. For these reasons, the Ottoman leadership chose diplomatic gain over total military annihilation. Negotiations followed, resulting in the signing of the Treaty of Pruth in 1711. According to its terms, Russia agreed to return the Azov fortress to the Ottoman Empire, refrain from maintaining a fleet in the Black Sea, and cease interference in Ottoman internal affairs. In addition, Russia would not prevent King Charles XII of Sweden from returning to his homeland. These provisions halted Russia's advance toward the Black Sea for a considerable period and established a strategic balance in favor of the Ottomans. The Pruth Campaign is regarded as one of the last great diplomatic successes of the Ottoman Empire. It marked a moment when the Ottomans partially restored the prestige lost after Karlowitz. More importantly, it demonstrated that the empire could still survive through diplomacy, balance of power politics, and strategic judgment, rather than sheer military force. For Russia, Pruth was a harsh lesson on the long road toward imperial ambition. The signatures placed on the banks of the Pruth River shaped not only the outcome of a single campaign, but also the balance of power of an era. This episode remains a rare historical example of how an unexploited military victory could nevertheless be transformed into a decisive strategic success. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more historical documentaries.